And we welcome you to United in Liberty Radio. I'm Dustin Harris here with Joe Olivas, hanging out with you on the show that talks about principles and only principles. If you just want to talk about what's going on in the world, you can really tune in any local station, any national station, and you can hear stuff all day long, talked about things, but they really don't get down to the brass tacks, which is the principle behind the thing. And today we're going to talk about all things principles. Hi, Joe.
How you doing?
Well, you know, I'm good. I'm always excited to get on the radio and talk about some things that are going on. It's been a busy week. I have to admit I haven't been as tuned into the world as I normally am, catching up on current events and such. I guess it's summertime. We've been busy, but I'm excited to get into it a little bit today.
Oh, you know what, Dustin? Some of the stuff that we're going to be talking about today, I think we could be spending hours on. Multiple sessions as far as this radio show is concerned, but there's a lot of things going on and a lot of things that are happening that just quite frankly are really ridiculous to me. You see violation of principle just about everywhere, and some of the stuff just quite frankly is just so ridiculous that a kid can point out where I've talked to one of my children actually about one of these particular stories, and the response is, what?
Yeah. In other words, I don't have to be tuned into the world. I can still participate on the radio show today.
Oh, you know what?
If a kid can do it, I can do it.
You'll have something to say about everything that we talk about, and I think every one of our listeners would have something to say about what we talk about. And the important thing, or hopefully the most important thing, is that we recognize is the fact that if we're pointing this back to the principles, rather than just talk about the things that are going on, but we're talking about the principles associated with these particular stories or events, and more specifically, the 12 principles of liberty. It gives us an opportunity to have meaningful discussions with people in the community. So, right
on, I agree. So, what do you got for us?
Well, the first thing that I wanted to talk about, this is actually coming from cnsnews.com, and I had to read this a few times just because. I was looking for an April Fool's joke or something, even though we're mid to the late July. I was looking for something that just said, "Just kidding, I'm joking," but this is really ridiculous. It's funny that we're talking about this, but at the same time, not funny just because of the serious nature of it. So I'm going to start here really quick. It says the Obama administration is backing legislation that includes regulations requiring U.S. businesses to provide the government data about employee pay as it relates to the sex, race, and national origin of employees.
Okay, well, so you're saying that Obama is backing a bill. Is this a bill going through?
Yeah, this is legislation that's getting ready. It's
that would reveal to the government that information.
That's right.
As coming from an employer.
Yeah, as coming from an employer.
Holy cow!
The Senate approved it in 2009, but
I remember that.
Excuse me, the House approved it, but the Senate hasn't approved it yet.
How come we don't hear about these things?
Funny that you mentioned that. I think because most of these types of things, with a lot of the, especially right now with a lot of the different things that are going on. I mean, you question the president on anything. There's a certain group that's going to label you as a racist. Right. People don't want to be associated with those types of labels, and I think it sweeps a lot of things under the rug.
Well, and the other thing is I think they're purposely slipping things under the rug. I mean, I noticed what happened this last week with the financial reform bill. Did you hear anything about that? Hardly. I mean, it was talked about very, very briefly, but that's it.
Oh, yeah, and because the world was talking about the NAACP, the world was talking about the Tea Party, the world was talking about the racist claims that were going back and forth, the world was talking about those types of things, as opposed to legislation that was always and we talked about it quite a few shows back, but right. You almost have to look at both hands to see what both hands are doing, because right. While one hand is playing one game, the strings are being pulled on the other hand, and I think a lot of people missed out on finding out what was going on with regards to that financial reform bill. But this is an interesting story because it talks about a few things here, or mentions a few things here that just don't even make sense, even on the surface. In a statement, President Obama has said that an event at the White House that was featuring the President Joe Biden, Attorney General Eric Holder, and the Labor Secretary Hilda Solis, that the president and his cabinet endorsed what they refer to as the Paycheck Fairness Act. Now, the only thing fair about a paycheck is if you work and you get paid.
Well, you know what? I personally, I am a backer. Anytime a bill comes up that has the word fairness in it, I really think that might, not just might, definitely is got to be a good bill.
Well, I mean, it's got to be fair. It's got to be fair for everybody.
Right.
But
the Paycheck Fairness Act.
Yeah, the Paycheck Fairness Act. Now, this article goes through and explains a little bit of what this Paycheck Fairness Act is. We have our Vice President Joe Biden is explaining a little bit or giving some information as to why they have this Paycheck Fairness Act, which really just, he sounds silly. And so, I could choose a few other words, but let me read some of the things that Vice President...
Why don't you? Why don't we just use the language that he likes to use?
Oh, I don't know if we can use that on the radio. We might get fined and those... But, some of the things that...
Plus, my wife listens to this.
This is a big deal. How about that?
No, there we go.
Biden says that women make up nearly half of all workers on U.S. payrolls, and 2/3 of families with children are either headed by two working parents or by a single parent who works. Okay, that's fine. That's a given. People understand that. I don't think you have to explain that, but I think he's using that as context to explain what it is that needs to happen. He states further, yet the workplace has, for the most part, not changed to reflect these realities. So he's already leading you to believe that something is wrong. We're out of balance here. Something is inappropriate.
Well, and before you even go on, what hasn't changed? The workplace hasn't changed.
The work hasn't
really. Well, maybe we ought to sit down and have a talk with the workplace.
Yeah.
I mean, if he's out of line, which obviously Vice President Joe Biden says he is, let's sit down with Mr. Workplace. Let's get him back on track, make sure he's making the right decisions, because we want to make sure we're fair to everybody.
Well, and the way they're wanting to do that, though, is they're wanting to force Mr. Workplace into what Joe Biden, Eric Holder, President Obama, the Labor Secretary, under this Paycheck Fairness Act, they want to force Mr. Workplace into what they believe is right and just. It says closing the gender pay gap. Okay, now we've had the story about pitting black versus white. I mean, that's been pretty predominant in the news lately. I mean, right. you question the president or you are against his policies, you're a racist, and it just creates this negative energy. And so we're doing the same thing here now, but now it's genders now. We're pitting male against female. Helping parents keep their jobs while balancing family responsibilities and increasing workplace flexibility. These are not only women's issues, these are issues of middle-class economic security. The problem with that is there's no such thing as economic security other than the individual's own ability to create that for themselves.
Right, just like there's no such thing, and I hope the listeners caught the tongue-in-cheek with Mr. Workplace. In other words, socialists love to do this. They take a concept or a general idea or a group of people, which are always individuals, and they say, okay, collective rights or workplace rights or women's rights. Those groups are nothing but a bunch of individuals. Furthermore, when you talk about quote-unquote workplace rights, what you're talking about is the ability for an employer to make a decision in his employment with regard to his employees, who also have a choice in what they will accept for pay and what they won't.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. I mean, the reality is, as an employer, I have the right to pay my employees what I feel their services are worth to me.
Absolutely. I'll give you a perfect example. Just today, I had an interview with a gal yesterday to hire on to one of my businesses. After some contemplation and after also interviewing a few others, I decided to give her a job. I called her up. She said, I was just about ready to call you. And I said, oh, really? And she said, yeah, I just wanted to call and let you know that I've accepted another job. And I said, well, that's a bummer. We would have loved to have you on our team. I said, but, you need to be where you need to be. I told her what I was still going to be paying her. I said, this is the pay. And she said, wow, that's more than the other place is offering. But I really want to be at the other place. Okay. She just made a choice.
Yeah, and see, this is